Made man here. Y'all know how I get down. We talking boxing, man. Man, oh man, oh man. Saul Canelo Alvarez has brought home the ultimate bag. I repeat, the ultimate bag. Signing an 11-fight deal with DAZN worth a minimum of $365 million. This is going to go down, ladies and gentlemen, as the richest sports athlete contract in sports history, eclipsing Floyd Mayweather, eclipsing baseball players, basketball players, football players. I'm talking sports history. Oh my goodness, man. That is a fat ass bag. 11 fights. 11 fights, man. Damn, yo. Canelo is now going to be the highest paid athlete in the world. And man, all of that pay-per-view success that he had in the past, the way that Goldenboy has moved him through the years, it has generated a big goal for Saul Canelo Alvarez. And truth be told, as a boxing fan, I'm just glad to see that it is a boxer that now has the richest contract in sports history. We remember Floyd Mayweather signing his deal with Showtime that was worth like 6 fights for like $250 million or something like that. And that was a fat deal. But this one right here, Canelo Alvarez, $365 million minimum for 11 fights. Not to mention, Oscar De La Hoya penned a little deal for himself on the side for Goldenboy Promotions worth 10 fights. You know what I mean? Plus, he'll get licensing fees from DAZN, in which he'll use that platform to put on some of his other fighters under the Goldenboy stable. So Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo Alvarez came out like fat cats with this damn deal, man. This is cool, man. This is really cool, man. Good for Canelo Alvarez, man. And I'm sure, of course, Canelo Alvarez is happy out here. He has some quotes out, and he says, and I quote, "This is only from my hard work. The most important thing to me was being able to give the fans the opportunity to see me fight without having to pay the $70 or $80 for my fights on pay-per-view. That was the most important thing, more important than what I am making. It's very important for me to give the fans the biggest fights and the most important fights. And I promise you, I will always do that. The December fight with Fielding is a dangerous fight, and I am moving up in weight, and I don't know how my body will feel, but I always want to take on challenges, and I am very happy that my fans will be able to see me fight for a small cause." End quote. Well, what he's basically alluding to is that we all know that anytime we've ever wanted to see Saul Canelo Alvarez fight, it was always having to be a pay-per-view fight, and where we forking out about $80 to $90. Well, now he'll be on the DAZN app. DAZN is not really into the pay-per-view business, so you will basically be able to see him fight for $9.99 a month, and you know that's the subscription fee. So they'll rather take you down a subscription road than the pay-per-view road, and for many of Canelo Alvarez's fans, that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be a big deal. The only difference is this now will be a more recurring cost, like it'll be a monthly cost, as opposed to that 1 or 2 times, per month, that you pay for the pay-per-view. And this is going to be cool, man. I mean, look, man, as a boxing fan, you just can't knock this because it gives you more access. If you really round it off, though, for the whole year, you'll be basically paying about $10 a month for 12 months. So you're looking at about $120 a year, as opposed to if you look at 2 of Canelo's fights, you'll still be paying roughly about $120, anyway, to maybe $160, $180. So you're probably saving a couple dollars. You ain't really saving much if you really think about it in the long term. But yeah, man, I mean, Joe, this is good, man. This is Saul Canelo Alvarez now showing his power on his third network. He's been with HBO, he's been with Showtime, and now he's also down with DAZN. This is powerful, man. DAZN now is making powerful moves in the world of boxing. They are still trying to influence the American buyer, and now they have 2 of the biggest boxing stars in the world. They got Saul Canelo Alvarez, and they also got Anthony Joshua, at least on a fight by fight thing, but they got Anthony Joshua at least for now. So those are two of the biggest revenue generators in boxing right there. And now DAZN has got them hook, line, and sinker. Man, oh man, that's cool, man. Oscar De La Hoya making moves. Making moves. Now, the golden question in this situation is, what does this mean? Well, before I get to that, let me just say this. What does this put us as far as fights for Canelo? And that's going to be the number one question leading to people who are thinking about buying the subscription. Well, truth be told, ain't much have changed since his HBO time. You know what I mean? Because if you really think about it, back, when Canelo, just a few months back, when he was under HBO, it was HBO versus Showtime, right? In which you had fighters like Demetrius Andrade fighting on HBO. You had Daniel Jacobs on HBO. You had Canelo on HBO. We've even seen Billy Joe Saunders willing to, he had fights on HBO, even though he's with Frank Warren. But that was the pretty much makeup of the middleweight division. Gennady Golovkin, who has yet to make a decision yet, on HBO. And for those who are fans of Jamal Charlo, and we all know that Jamal Charlo was the WBC mandatory, he was on Showtime. So clearly, this still makes basically everything the same. Where all of those fighters, because all of those fighters mainly, and Demetrius Andrade and then Demetrius Andrade and Billy Joe Saunders. Well, he fights for Frank Warren. Daniel Jacobs. That's what I was thinking of. Daniel Jacobs. I mean, these dudes were on HBO, but they're all going to be on DAZN now because they're rocking with Eddie Hearn. And we know Eddie Hearn in this Matchroom deal is basically rocking on DAZN right now for his supposed $1 billion deal. So they'll be fighting on DAZN also. So if the fights were available to Canelo on HBO for those dudes, it's now available on DAZN. And Jamal Charlo still rocking with Showtime, so he basically still in the same position. So, really ain't much have changed. So if anybody sees that Canelo making a network change, and any of these other fighters for that matter making a network change, there's really no change. You know what I mean? It's still an opposing network than Showtime, another competing network other than Showtime, and it still makes a fight a little more tougher for Jamal Charlo to get. You know what I'm saying? I still want to see Jamal Charlo face Canelo Alvarez, but like I said, the same obstacles still exist. Now, as far as competition level, like I say, not much has changed. It remains to see what Gennady Golovkin going to do. It remains to see if he going to get down with DAZN or not. I'm thinking he will, given that all of these, mostly these big name fighters at that weight class is getting on DAZN. Now, the only thing that concerns me, because, yeah, Canelo Alvarez can still go for, say, I don't know, the WBO title. If Demetrius Andrade beats this Konta dude and he wins the WBO title, the fight between him and Canelo was very possible for all of those titles, Canelo's titles as well as the Andrade title. If Daniel Jacobs defeats Sergey Deryevchenko, same thing in that particular case where he got the IBF middleweight title, then that fight can also be possible for Canelo too. So undisputed middleweight champion is still a very high possibility. But I can say this, if Sergey Deryevchenko beats Daniel Jacobs, he going to probably take that title over to PBC, and we'll see how that goes. But if Daniel Jacobs wins, if Demetrius Andrade wins, then the possibility of an undisputed middleweight champion can go down on DAZN. And that's the realistic possibility, man. You know what I mean? So Jamal Charlo may got to ask himself a question or two. Is my allegiance to Showtime the best move for my career at this time? Now, just because all of those options are available, that doesn't necessarily mean that Canelo will do it. I find it very funny that Canelo is moving up to 168. He's giving himself, once again, options. You know what I'm saying? We know how Canelo like to get down, fighting at these random weights. But he's giving himself options. I'm hoping that he does go back down to the 160-pound weight class. But he's giving himself a lot of options by taking this Rocky Fielding fight up at 168. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on now. Like, they can be talking a Callum Smith fight. We can be talking about them trying to lure Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., something that's been talked about in the past, you know what I mean, to DAZN or Eddie Hearn. You know what I mean? So that's a possibility, and it will leave those other fights that we just said in the win. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we'll see how this thing works out. But it does scare me a little bit to see Canelo going to 68 and not, staying down at 160 where all the belts are. We'll see how that goes down, though. Now, as for Eddie Hearn, You know, Eddie Hearn did, I guess, a decent job by signing the opponents that Canelo needs to fight to get those belts and to have some good fights. Trust and believe, man, if Canelo chooses not to fight his mandatory in Jamal Charlo, and I'm dying to see what the WBC excuse is going to be, but if he chooses not to fight Charlo, fights Daniel Jacobs in a unification, that would trump the mandatory, fights Demetrius Andrade in a unification, that would trump the mandatory, and he chooses to go those routes, you won't hear much complaining from me, Joe, because those are decent fights. You know what I'm saying? I'm a boxing fan. It's not about being invested in a specific boxer. It's about being more invested in the sport. And either way, those are unification fights and being on the road to undisputed. For those reasons, him not fighting Jamal Charlo, maybe I will understand. Just maybe. But for those who saying that, look what Eddie did, yo, you don't know what you're talking about. This is a major, major threat to Eddie Hearn. And I'm being honest. A major threat. Because this is a Goldenboy deal, not a Matchroom deal. This is Goldenboy being able to put on 10 fights, as well as now having the biggest American draw in boxing. And we all know that DAZN's goal is not to be all cool with Eddie Hearn. Their goal is to lure the American buyer. And if they can lure enough buyers with Canelo and Goldenboy alone, the need for Eddie Hearn is going to start to become minimal. You know, like I said, hats off to him for having a couple opponents that Canelo Alverez would like to fight. But Canelo maneuvers. He dances around fights. He going up and down in weight. He'll do all kinds of stuff like that. And as long as the tickets are selling, as the subscriptions are selling, that's all they worried about. You know what I mean? That's all they worried about. So, I mean, according to Oscar De La Hoya, and I quote, "This is huge for boxing, huge for Canelo, and huge for Goldenboy. Goldenboy is at the forefront of something very monumental for the sport of boxing." So that's tell you right there, he's looking out for Goldenboy's interests, not Matchroom. I already told people in the past that, yo, remember when Richard Schaefer, when he brought the World Boxing Super Series to DAZN, which DAZN now is airing. You know what I mean? When he brought that was seen as a threat to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn wanted to get Mikey Garcia from Richard Schaefer, but he keeps Mikey Garcia too close. Mikey never went down with Eddie. So what does that tell you? These are competitors of Eddie Hearn. And Eddie Hearn, between Richard Schaefer and Oscar, can get squeezed out if he does not produce. And I can honestly say, without Canelo Alvarez, Daniel Jacobs and Billy Joe Saunders might not be enough firepower to lure the American subscriber. And that's just being 100. You know what I mean? So it is what it is with that particular thing. But, man, Eddie got some work to do. He needs to get some more names under the Matchroom banner, and not only his fight-by-fight basis and being all happy for Canelo and all that. Canelo don't fight for you, bruh. And then Anthony Joshua, though he fights for Matchroom, he ain't actually locked in to DAZN. And not to mention, Anthony Joshua's name in America is not top-notch. So that is the goal of DAZN, is to get the American subscriber, not the UK subscriber. So these are concerns for Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn ain't jumping for joy this morning, ladies and gentlemen. He's sitting back worried like, oh, man, we better make sure we get these fights with Andrade and Daniel Jacobs in there with Canelo. He's got to make sure of it. You know what I mean? Now, maybe he got some fighters in the lower weights, which he does, that he making match up with some Goldenboy fighters, or even at the higher weights, such as the Rocky Fielding situation. So Rocky Fielding is fighting under Hearn. You know, there you go. You got the first Hearn and Goldenboy thing going down now on Canelo's possibly first fight on DAZN. He will need to do more to keep up with Goldenboy, because Goldenboy may start to maneuver and try to do this stuff in-house, and that will provide problems for Eddie Hearn in Matchroom. So we'll see how this thing goes, man. But yeah, man, this is good for the sport of boxing, man. I can't deny that, man. Oscar De La Hoya also says, and I quote, "This is easily one of the best days in growing history of Goldenboy promotions. We are committed to making the sport as accessible as possible, and at an affordable price for all fans. My dream has been to make boxing a sport for all. DAZN has the perfect platform to make this dream come true. And with the biggest star in the sport at the helm of this journey, I have no doubts that we will succeed in unimaginable ways." So, yeah, man, this is what happens now. HBO is gone. They gave HBO a chance to try to bid on the next fight between Fielding and Canelo, but it seems that HBO couldn't match the offer of DAZN, and so that's why Oscar rolling. This is going to be a competitive situation right here because now you got 3 different promotion companies rocking on DAZN with Richard Schaefer, Eddie Hearn, and now Oscar De La Hoya. And Oscar has signed a fat deal for him, Canelo and Goldenboy, and this is going to get competitive. Let's see how the fights come out, man, because the DAZN success is at the end of the day is all the same. You got to give us the fights that we want to see, and it's the only way that you will lure the American subscriber. I like what I'm seeing, though. I got to honestly admit, but really not much different than from HBO, but I definitely like what I'm seeing, and it's going to be interesting to see how Canelo Alvarez maneuvers. Will he go after the Gennady Golovkin 3rd fight over these belts? Will he vacate a belt? Well, how this will go? That all of these things made up will determine the success of Canelo on DAZN. So we'll see, man. I'll follow this up with another video probably a little later, man. So to the next video, Main Man Made Man. Don't forget to subscribe. Twitter, Made Man 511. Facebook, Main Man Made Man Boxing Forum. Google Plus, Main Man Made Man. Instagram, Main Man Made Man. Damn, Joe. He has taken the mantle, man. Hey, yo, just when you think Canelo is chilling out a little bit, he got $50 million for the Golovkin fight, which was a fat bag. But yo, at the end of the day, damn, this tops any and everything the man has ever done. He is getting that bag. Let's see what happens with Jamal Charlo, man. I feel bad for him, man. And there's rumors that he took in step aside money. I hope that ain't the case, because if so, he needs to consider his career, because he will be left down at middleweight with not many people to fight, or hope that Sergey Deryevchenko wins the title. But right now, they all rocking on DAZN. What does Jamal Charlo do? So to the next video. Peace out.